there any point in growing apple trees if you got a lot of cedar trees?
Yeah, there really is.
And I like to put in the theater.
You just pick the right apples. And there are apples out, there's a lot of apples out there that do not get cedar apple rust. And so it wouldn't matter if you had them nearby. They're not going to get it. And the distance continues to creep farther. You know, it used to be, well, you don't want them within, I remember this 40 years ago, you don't want them within 100 feet of each other. Well, now it's 2 miles. Well, if you're going to go around and cut down every cedar within 2 miles of your apple orchard, you're going to make a lot of people upset, and a few people happy. It seems like half the people like cedars, and the other half of people call me how to get rid of them. But there's a lot of apple varieties that will not get cedar apple rust. So
We got a fireside in this year.
Like, all I've got is honeycrisp.
yeah, they're moderately.
I see that one.
Fireside's a great apple, but it's very prone to fire flame.
Well, it said in the book that it wasn't, so that's why I got that one.
Which book? My book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, I should go to your book first.
Go to my book first, because I remember dealing with those in Minnesota 30 years ago, and those in Connell Reds would get it, and that was the problem in commercial orchards. It was like you couldn't prune it up fast enough. So.
Do you have a good list that you could send me?
Yeah.
That I can look for next year?
Yep, I can get that to you.
Thank you.
Because yeah, there's a lot, and I mean it's a different issue with crab apples. I had back when we had the TV show Garden Line. I remember one day about this time of year, walking in the studio thinking, what am I going to talk about? And there was a red jewel crab apple right outside the building. Every leaf was perfect. So I just snipped it off and brought it in and said, look at this. We didn't spray it at all. It doesn't get apple scab or cedar apple rust. And there's apple trees the same way. You get apple trees that you're not going to spray for anything. And that's really the ones you want to focus on. Now, again, Fireside has one of the best apples. So people say, okay, I'll plant it and just figure I've got to manage the problem. And one we don't plant a lot of, and I was looking at some this last week, is Dolgo crab apple. And that was developed in South Dakota back more than 100 years ago. Back when there were South Dakotans that didn't have refrigeration yet. And in fact, I can even remember, not that old, because the line didn't go out to our place yet, is that, well, how do you keep things? And this was developed as a cider apple, and it's one of the best cider apples you can get. And it's a crab apple. And when we get a good crop like we're doing this year, we'll make cider out of it. So, you know, there's crab apples. In fact, chestnut crab apples I love. They're sweet, they're bite-sized, they're an apple for him. All right, and that's when I plant. You know, it's a nice, but it's a nice small apple. It's kind of like, the only problem with them, it's kind of like eating donut holes. You know, you look at that bag and you go, oh my gosh, I just ate 7 apples. Because they're pretty small. But it's a good fresh eating apple. Dolgo, yeah, it's a cider apple. You gotta have acquired taste to eat it right off. But I'll get you a list of the most disease-resistant apple varieties for your area.
Okay.
Because yeah, that's the way to avoid it, is just plant apple trees that don't get these diseases, and don't worry about cedars or spraying or any of those. Now, the one thing we don't have anything with resistance to is apple maggot. So you still have to spray to keep the worms from getting in the apples. Nobody's ever developed an apple for that, but most of the time you can manage that just by making sure you don't let any apples fall to the ground and just lay the apples. If the insect's in it, then they overwinter. Just cleaning up any fallen apples every day usually takes care of those problems. So sanitation. But with diseases, yeah, they can come from anywhere. So getting trees that don't have them comes from anywhere. So I'll get you that. But try Japanese apple. I think you'd like it. I know the big soup there is.
Okay.